Hi there, I'm Kennedy, and welcome to the show. I am joined by Reason Magazine editor-in-chief Welch and Camille Foster from Free Think Media, wearing fuchsia gingham, I might add. Very serious this evening. We are The Independents. Our party panel has some tough questions to answer off the bat. Let's meet our lovely compatriots for the evening. Brooke Goldstein with the Lawfare Project. She's the director, and also with us, it's Red Eye co-host Andy Levy from Fox News Channel. Two big stars in a glorious night. Well, this has not been an easy week in the world, especially in the Middle East, where sabers are rattling louder than words. Iran seems to be shipping weapons to Palestine. Israel is calling out anyone who talks to Tehran. And now Russia is helping Iran build some nuclear reactors in exchange for oil. So let me ask you, Matt, first, starting, who's a bigger problem, Rouhani or Putin?
Putin. By far, I think, right now. He's upsetting the international order, and he's putting pressure on a neighboring country, violating potentially treaties or international agreements that have been signed, and having a referendum being held under kind of the threat of this army massing. It's got people nervous, and he's got a large nuclear stockpile, and we're kind of unclear what happens now to certain borders and sovereignty of countries in his near abroad. It is more unsettling kind of in the long term than yet another Iranian shooting out the mouth about how he wants to wipe off Israel off the map.
I don't know, dude. Iran's a pretty big problem. What do you think, Camille?
Perhaps, but I mean, this sort of bellicose rhetoric is pretty much par for the course when it comes to Iran and the Middle East. I am pretty nervous about what the United States might do. It does seem as though this is perhaps a reaction from Putin in response to the situation that's unfolding in Crimea.
Well, I think what he's saying is if you give us sanctions, we're going to find a way to get oil.
Yeah, we'll find a way to annoy you as well. I mean, this has been a persistent. This whole region has been a persistent thorn in the side of the United States for a very long time, and the only thing I'm really concerned about right now is how we stay the hell out of it, because this does not seem like it really is a problem, and it doesn't seem like we've been a great deal of help in terms of stabilizing the region since the 1950s.
All right, is Russia helping Iran get the bomb?
Well, that's the point. I mean, they're both enablers. If you look at both Russia and Iran's what they're doing in Syria right now, they're both enabling Assad to commit mass murder. But when you think about what is the more imminent threat, Iran is the #1 state sponsor of terrorism right now. They have a presence in Kenya. They have a presence in Syria, in Lebanon, in India. They've carried out terrorist attacks in Saudi Arabia. They're funding Hezbollah. They're funding Hamas. They're all over the globe. And it's not just rhetoric. They are engaged in acts of genocide. It's not just incitement to genocide. And the fact that we haven't referred this to the ICC, the fact that we haven't referred this to the ICJ, for example, it sends the green light that Iran can continue with these acts and with impunity.
You would send it on Syria. That's your...
I mean, there's a multitude of crimes that we could ask the UN Security Council to refer Iran to the ICC. There's a multitude of crimes that states can refer Iran to the ICJ, and that would only be the first step, obviously. I mean, the fact that we haven't said anything, the fact that we haven't accused Iran of genocide or incitement to genocide, it sends the green light. Continue. Do what you're doing with impunity.
All right, so Andy, should Iran be allowed to have a nuclear weapon?
Well, the thing is, if you don't think Iran is trying to develop nuclear weapons, you're crazy. If you don't think Iran wants to wipe Israel off the map, you're crazy. And if you don't think Iran is crazy enough to use nuclear weapons to wipe Israel off the map, you're crazy.
I agree, because they don't have the fear of détente. If you've got an Islamist regime, the thing that kept the U.S. and Russia from killing each other, the Soviet Union rather, was the fear of dying. And you don't necessarily have that with a theocratic...
Well, exactly. And I totally get the argument that Russia is the bigger threat to the globe right now, except that what Iran does with Israel could potentially be a bigger threat because we are more likely to get involved because of our relationship with Israel than we would be in the Crimea or with Ukraine. And if we get dragged into a situation, who knows where it escalates to. So I think there is an argument to be made that if Iran is as crazy as they appear to be, which I think they probably are, ultimately that could be a bigger threat
One note of caution, President Rouhani did come out last month and say that, we shouldn't make this kind of crazy talk because it's not good for deterrence if you act like a seriously crazy offensive person. So he's trying to walk.
Yeah, but then you have Salami saying Islam has given us this wish capacity and power to destroy the Zionist regime.
Yeah,
so
but
he may be saying that. He may be the figurehead, but bubbling just beneath the surface is a cauldron of
But that rhetoric has been there for a very long time. And while I will fully acknowledge that the folks in Iran do seem to be pretty unstable, there has not been anything like a full frontal assault on any of their neighbors. They are doing some of these clandestine operations.
Yeah.
But again, if they didn't care and if they weren't at all worried about what the potential consequences were because this was a religious fight and they weren't at all rational, wouldn't they be doing other things as opposed to trying to get sanctions lifted? One wonders if there aren't very legitimate opportunities for engagement that might actually improve relations over time and make matters better.
Or are they just waiting until they have nukes?
Perhaps that's the case, but I don't know that that is actually something.
What do you do if you're Israel? I mean, do you preemptively attack Iran?
First of all, I think it's a mistake to look at Iran in an Israel-centric vacuum. Iran has and continues to target American civilians. They've carried out an enabled terrorist attack that kills Americans. So it's not just Israel's problem. But what it looks like is that Israel is going to have to take care of the world's problem because everybody, decides that they're going to wipe their hands clean and Israel should take care of it because we framed it in a way that Israel is the #1 victim here. And they're not. I mean, the Iranian leaders have come out. They've come out with maps. They've shown.
I don't think Israel wants to be seen as a victim. I think that they are finding ways to go on the offensive as well, and that's what makes it so much more unstable and terrifying. All right, well, it's about to get welcome back to the Independent. We Americans. We love to consume many substances that are bad. But what is the worst of the worst? A new Wall Street Journal poll recently asked people, what is most harmful? Marijuana, tobacco, booze, or sugar? The results may surprise you. 49% of respondents said tobacco is the most harmful of the four. 24% said alcohol. 15% of those polled said sugar. And 8%, only 8% said marijuana. Our sexy panel is back. Brooke and Andy. Welcome, you guys. So I'm going to open it up to you guys first. What do you think is more deadly or dangerous on this list of harmful substances?
I think they probably got it right. I think probably tobacco. I mean, tobacco, as ingested the way we ingest it, kills you.
Yeah.
And alcohol does to a certain, also, and I think it's good that came in second. I have no problem with marijuana being fourth on this. No one's ever died from smoking pot. So I think that's fine.
You stoner?
Yeah. Why are you asking me that?
Are you holding?
No. No.
But we have different. It's different ideas here. To wrap it up into one poll, it's not quite right. Right? Like there's the OD test.
Do you think it's too arbitrary?
Right. Well, I mean, you're conflating a lot of stuff. The OD test, you can't OD on cigarettes. You could try, but you're not going to.
You can OD on sugar.
It's a little strange.
It'd be really hard to OD on sugar.
Have you tried? It's not hard.
I think Moynihan has tried that.
It's diabetic.
Oh yeah, sure. But so you can't OD on marijuana, but there's also the long-term it's going to kill you thing. So cigarettes or tobacco wins that.
You can choke to death on an edible, though.
But they're not asking about heroin.
Right, but there's also the up with your life. We've all seen people mess themselves up in their life. I don't see we've seen a lot of people do that with sugar. We've seen.
Are you kidding?
There are plenty of people.
I mean, no. What about obese people?
Yeah.
Is it sugar?
It's subjective.
I love sugar.
Yeah, but I think
the whole point. I mean, if you have
you crave sugar and you eat high-fat foods that contain sugar,
and if you have cancer, you have epilepsy, THC is really good for you. So I mean, it's a public opinion poll. And I think what it reflects is not the medical reality. What it reflects is the fact that we're engaged now in a national debate if pot should be legalized. You look what's going on in Colorado, and people are researching it. They're thinking about it. They're coming to these opinions. Pot doesn't make you violent. You can't OD on it, but if you use it in a certain way, for example, if you roll it with tobacco, and I guess if you hold it in for too long, it's really bad for your lungs. So, it's a false comparison.
But if you roll anything in with tobacco.
Yeah. Exactly.
If you roll your hopes and dreams in with tobacco.
And you don't smoke 12 joints a day, or 20.
We can all agree, though, the only solution here is to ban all of these things.
That's right. Yeah, okay. Especially
vaping.
Especially
vaping sugar.
Yeah, you cannot vape sugar. You can mainline it. I've done it. I've tried. I love sugar.
Dangerous.
I love sugar. If I had to choose between never smoking marijuana again and never eating sugar, I haven't smoked weed since I was 14. That's a What? Contempt.
I didn't know if you were looking at me or just
Palpable.
wistfully remembering the last time you got high.
It was horrible. I vomited and hallucinated aliens.
Oh, God.
When did it get horrible?
That's funny. Hi. Can your rap lyrics be used against you in a court of law? Street poets everywhere are shuddering about the case of Vontae Skinner. He was convicted in 2008 of attempted murder, and his violent rap lyrics were used against him in trial, even though he did not write anything related to the crime he was accused of. The case is headed to the New Jersey Supreme Court, rather, and the court's decision could have serious First Amendment implications. This is such a strange story because if this were a white guy who had been doodling in his journal, I don't think that the same material would be used in the same context to convict him.
If Nick Cave commits a crime.
Right.
He's host.
Holy cow, death penalty? Have you listened to O'Malley's Bar recently? My God, he commits about 35 murders in 10 minutes of a murder ballad, which was named one of the records. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. This should really be cut off, hopefully, in the court system, because these are not linked to the actual crimes. It's a total free speech issue.
But the issue here is that any sort of fringe community that isn't particularly well understood by mainstream folks might actually be set up for something like this. So if a goth kid commits a crime and folks find out that he's listening to death metal, I don't know that goth kids do that, but I'm assuming it's possible, that could be a problem. So obviously, you shot a man in Reno to watch him die, or you shot the sheriff and didn't shoot the deputy. That does not necessarily have any bearing on whether or not you committed the crime, and that's what should actually matter in a criminal trial.
No, I mean, if you have an imagination and you're a poet, it's a strange thing. I mean, if he's a bad person, he's done bad things, certainly he needs to answer for those crimes. But, you know, if his race were slightly different, do you think it would have been?
No, I think this is a complete mischaracterization of the issue. This is not a First Amendment issue. It's not an issue of us being racist. The fact of the matter is, even if you have speech that's otherwise protected by the First Amendment, if it's related to a material issue in the case, it's admissible. If it's not related, it's not. Whether or not it's rap or it's a poem, if a white person or a Chinese person or what have you writes a poem and it's materially related to the issue, then it's admissible. In this case, the appellate court overturned the conviction because the rap at issue was not related whatsoever. It was a mistake for them to admit it because it created this undue prejudice against the defendant, and the judge said he wouldn't have otherwise been convicted. So the right thing was done in this case. It's not a First Amendment issue.
Although the issue is that this has happened on a number of occasions where some people come into court and hip-hop lyrics are used and their interest in it.
If it was related to the issue, for example, if there is a guy who writes a poem or a rap or journal entry, whatever you want to call it, and says, I'm going to go kill Joe, and he goes and he kills him.
I don't know, man. They did a study group where they showed the identical lyrics to two focus groups. One they told them it was from country lyrics, the other from rap lyrics, and the group they showed the rap lyrics to said that they were offended and threatened by the lyrics.
Yeah,
that's a problem. That's a societal prejudice problem, and that's why it's determined pre-trial, in a pre-trial hearing, and the judge makes a decision on a case-by-case basis whether or not there will be undue prejudice to the defendant.
But even the judges can have prejudice, and I think that's part of it.
I'm not prejudiced against you, but we have to go. Thank you very much, Brooke and Andy. Did you want to say, okay, you have 10 seconds. Go ahead.
No, I don't care anymore.
1, 3.
Make it in a rap.
I think it's straight up racist.
Yo.
And so are you.
Yeah, thank you for throwing that in. I named my daughter after a sweaty black man. Okay? Take that back right now.
Lotus?
That's a true story. Coming up next.